What's going on, Wix Nation? MPS here with my morning green smoothie in hand, and today I'm going to show you how to understand and navigate the brand new inspector panel within Editor X. And this is going to be the second episode of our Editor X training series on Module 1, which is understanding your workspace in Editor X. Hey, if you're brand new here, let me tell you, Editor X is an incredible new tool, and there's going to be an additional 300, 400 videos created because of this new editor, and you're not going to want to miss any one of them. You can join this community and get involved so you don't miss that content by clicking the subscribe button and turning those bell notifications on, and you'll instantly join the largest Wix training community on the internet. I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty good place to be when learning a brand new editor. Hey, let's jump into today's video. Okay, so we're here in Editor X. As mentioned, we are going to be highlighting the inspector panel today, which is up here in the top right corner, right under the publish button. If we click that, it will open default to nothing right now because I haven't clicked anything on the page. However, the inspector panel is available for every single element on your page. For instance, if I were to click this text, I can go ahead then click the inspector panel on or off, and we'll get all of the inspector panel items and options for this element on the page. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scroll down the page and use a picture because I think pictures are a good way to explain the inspector panel. So if I click on this image, I just kind of want to go through some of the options within the inspector panel because it's brand new and it's incredibly efficient to your design and actually enhances your design tenfold compared to the classic editor. Not that there was anything wrong with the classic editor. This is just so much more efficient and effective. So the inspector panel allows you to do a couple of things. First, you have sizing options. This is the one you're really going to want to get familiar with. So with sizing options, you've got a couple options here. You can either choose a fixed or fluid design. So essentially what fixed, it means that whatever dimensions you originally brought your image in and sized it out to on the screen, it's going to stay that way no matter what device you're viewing the website from. So it doesn't change. It will stay. If it's this size, it stays this size. However, if you choose a fluid design, it's the opposite. So if you choose fluid design, the image will actually scale with whatever particular device you're viewing from. So it's a fluid design, and it's fluid for a reason because it changes. So it'll make the width larger or smaller or the height larger or smaller depending on the device you're viewing from. So obviously, depending on the type of feel you're trying to give your website and the type of element it is will depend on whether it's fixed or fluid. I think it's also important for me to note that this same styling guide is the same across all elements on your website, whether it's text, whether it's images, whether it's video, whether it's audio. Well, I don't see why it'd be audio, but you catch my drift. It's the same styling and sizing guide. So I don't want you to get confused if I'm doing an image, but you want to do this on text. It follows suit, right? And then you have options down here like width, height, minimum height, max width, max height. You also have an option right here. It says sizing option stretched. So right now it's stretched. That's what this image is. It's on a strip, and that's where it's pinned to. But then you've got position, right? So if we scroll down to position, this is actually the docking of your image. So it shows your position on the page, whether it's vertical, whether it's horizontal, and it shows where it's docked on the page and how far it is from the margins. So is it 10 pixels to the left of the margin, 10 pixels above the margin, and or below to the right of the margin? And this shows the position on that page, or in particular on that strip. If you're using a strip, it will show your position on that particular strip, and you have the ability to move it around. Click on the docking, and you can see I just clicked up and it moved it up, or it moved it down, excuse me. And then if I click back on it, it'll move it back up, and we can move it back up if we choose. And you've got the same drag and drop ability that you did in the classic editor, but now you've got more control over it, and you can see how the margins changed when I moved it like that. So this is all about the positioning, the docking. So now we've got sizing down, we've got positioning down. Next is scroll. So this is if there's a scroll effect. And scroll effects are actually really cool. So what that means is when you scroll to this section on the page, does this image have a certain effect to it? And you can choose that right here. You can choose whether it's fixed, which means it just kind of stays as proportion and it's just fixed on the screen. If it's sticky, if it will stay right there as everything else scrolls past it. You've seen that effect on websites where like the text is scrolling past the image as you scroll down the page because it's sticky on that particular spot on the page, which is a cool effect. So it's all about whatever the desired effect is you're going for. And that's what the scroll effects are. Then you have adjustments. You can rotate the image. So if I put 180, you can see it'll flip the image. So that's pretty cool too. You now have the ability to change in terms of degrees the rotation of your image. Now, I don't want it upside down. I want it at 0, so I'm going to flip it back. But you can see how easy it is. You punch in your degrees, and then it'll rotate the image based off of that calculation of degrees. And then you've got your grid area. And grid areas are actually an advanced CSS formatting tool. And what it allows you to do is essentially choose the area in which your element is docked on a page. So you actually get complete control over exactly where your element lies. So if I open our grid area here, you can see it's in terms of columns and rows. And these grid areas or columns and rows are identified by the dotted lines that you'll see here within this element. That is your grid area at the moment. For instance, if I were on the column in for the starting point at the top of the column to put 4 instead of 3, here's what would happen. You can see it moves inward to the right. Now, if I were to do that on the row and I put 2 instead of 1, you can see it'll move down based off of the row. And this is your grid area, so you have complete control over the position and the docking of your elements on the page. Again, this is actually an advanced CSS formatting tool, which gives you much more customization and control over the overall design and aesthetic of where elements lie, whereas in the classic editor, it was a little tough to get elements exactly right where you wanted them. Sometimes they didn't stick properly when you actually viewed it in publish mode. The grid area removes that and actually gives you complete control. And the last part of the inspector panel you need to be familiar with is anchoring. So you can come in here, you can add an anchor, and this will allow you to actually anchor via the menu. So if you wanted to have it click to interior, this image could be your anchor for that, in which case they'll click it and it'll drop down to this part of the page. You guys have used anchors in the traditional editor. It's the same thing, same concept. It's just now you can easily add anchors over each element, whereas it wasn't difficult before, but it was a little clunky and inefficient, and it kind of looked weird in the editor. Now you do it via the inspector panel, much easier to manage, and you have complete control over each element. These same options apply within different elements such as text and videos. However, sometimes some of the options won't be as extensive as images or may even be more extensive over the control. And that's really the only difference between elements, but the overall aesthetic and functionality behind the inspector panel is the same across each element. So I hope this video helped you out. I hope you're enjoying our Editor X training series. Make sure to give a like down below. Comment if you have any questions, what you took away from this video, and what else you would like to see in this Editor X training series. And remember, we're starting with the Workspace. That's module 1 of the training series. Lastly, you're not going to want to miss any of this Editor X content. I wasn't kidding when I said it'll allow us to do another 300, 400 videos on the channel. Make sure you don't miss any of it by clicking that subscribe button and turning those bell notifications on, and you'll plug into the largest Wix training community on the internet. Again, I'd say that's a perfect place to be when learning a brand new editor in Wix. I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful for you. I hope you're staying healthy out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on our next video.